Welcome to Solar Tech Talk, where we nerd out about solar energy, solar technology, and solar policy. I'm Aaron Bingham, product manager with BayWa.
And I'm Jason Burnett with technical sales support with BayWa RE as well.
So, Jason, I'm really excited about the episode today because we have one of our newest manufacturing partners joining us. FranklinWH manufactures residential energy storage solutions for the United States market. And our frequent listeners may be noticing a trend, right? Trend alert. Energy storage is a big thing. It's a hot topic right now. We keep focusing on it in Solar Tech Talk. And I know a lot of folks understand why, but I thought maybe we could take a minute to turn to that question. Why are we so focused on energy storage lately? What's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, I think battery storage is huge right now, just because it can help fix some of the critical infrastructures within different areas, whether that's grid resilience. It can also benefit the end user as well. Time of use, kind of choosing when we shift that energy back and forth from the grid, and we can now have power when the sun isn't shining and our power goes out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something that's really critical, and we'll talk about that a lot today with Franklin, but that idea that batteries are now able to actually do what customers just innately expect them to be capable of doing in an increasing way with different products that are on the market really does change the tone of the conversation. It's no longer that same old conversation where, an installer is having to really work hard to set expectations, set reasonable expectations with residential customers about what their grid tied or PV tied battery system is going to be capable of doing. Another thing that really comes to mind for me when I think about why this conversation keeps coming up and is going to remain a huge trend for the rest of 2023 and beyond is, the fact that there are economies of scale that we're hitting with the increasing production of batteries for the purposes of EVs and other applications that are just growing hand over fist year over year.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Aaron. And there's also policy-driven adoption, like we're seeing with NEM3. So it's not just we've already seen homeowners kind of shifting to battery storage and kind of owning their own power, but we're also seeing policy that's driving the same thing to boost infrastructure.
Right. I mean, with NEM3, there's going to be a really complicated payback schedule, but at certain times of year, customers in California are going to have access to really incredible compensation rates for power that's sent out to the grid. But of course, those rates are highest in most cases when energy production from PV modules is going to be at their lowest. Right. That's a really great example. Another great example that comes to mind for me, and this is kind of a classic for those who've been in the industry for a while, is the HECO zero export policy that was implemented in Hawaii several years ago that really drove battery adoption and the size and volume of the battery market there after HECO implemented their zero export requirements for any new solar installations was incredible to see from over here from the mainland. Honolulu became this fertile testing ground for battery manufacturers to really hone their craft and create a product that was capable of meeting the expectations that homeowners just innately have about what a product that's called a battery should be able to do for them, which is keep the lights on when there's not power coming into their house.
Totally, Aaron. And with that, that kind of fertile testing ground and these new products and innovations, the solar industry is specifically well positioned for transitioning that energy management. Right, we already have means for production, monitoring, control of the systems in a strategic export. Whether we're talking about time of use or self consumption, and this puts our solar professionals in a very unique position to push storage into the market themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, they're in the best position, I would argue, to have that conversation with homeowners and feel confident knowing what they're talking about when subjects like return on investment, tax credits come up, right? We certainly can and should capitalize on our position in a homeowner's eyes as trusted energy advisors. And we're really excited to be able to talk to Franklin a little bit more about that today. Have you heard of Franklin before we started working with them, Jason? Or
I did. I had caught a little bit of wind of them, and looked them up. Very impressed with the product, and very happy to be talking to them today and bringing them on board. And one of the things I heard them in was I think it was posted on LinkedIn, but Solar Surge, a YouTube channel, was interviewing Lynn Tran from Franklin Whole Home.
shout out to Joe Ordia.
Yeah, and Lynn was kind of talking about power management, and the industry is in a unique position for the homeowner to actually own their energy and energy in a free market, and how that the dynamic has changed. And it was a really good, short 15-minute, YouTube video that had a lot of great information and insight.
Yeah. I saw that Solar Surge episode as well. And I actually first started to hear about Franklin probably about a year ago, I would think. And my first impression, I'll just be honest, was, wait a minute, this product is a little bit too good to be true. Just because, it was a product that was really well positioned to overcome so many of the issues that installers have experienced with, some of the earlier to market energy storage solutions that are out there, and the objections that a lot of homeowners have when it comes to, the expense of installing a big battery in their house that's not actually going to keep the lights on when the power goes out. So I'm really, really excited to be talking to Justin Hopkins, who is FranklinWH's Director of Strategic Accounts. FranklinWH stands for Franklin Whole Home. Let's jump over to our conversation with him and find out why.
All right, let's see what Justin has to say.
All right, Justin, welcome to Solar Tech Talk.
Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate it. It's great to be here.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you, and we're really excited to have Franklin on the shelf. I've been watching you guys kind of enter the market over the course of the last year in a really serious way, and I know that you have been at it for a little bit more than that. Tell us how Franklin got started.
Yeah, it's a really cool story. I think many of us in the solar industry got in for reasons of just wanting to make things better. And I think Franklin Whole Home is no different as a company. Our co-founders, Gary Lamb and David Wang, are both deep veterans of the power electronics business in general. And Gary had actually purchased a power wall for his home in New Jersey. And he's one, if you go to his house, there's just wires everywhere, and he's got things like stripped up and wired up like he's the guy from Back to the Future, right? And he's looking at his power wall, and he just felt like, I want it to do more. So he got another power wall, and then he played with that, and he tried to, essentially break it, right? Like he wanted to see what was possible from a just, critical load side of having a battery on the home. And he said, his feeling was that he was just kind of underwhelmed with what the possibilities were and then what the actualities were. And I think a big theme that we kind of all landed on early in my days coming to Franklin was, reduced compromise. Creating a product that really gives the homeowner the experience of putting the grid in their back pocket and, creating infrastructure for their home. So I think that was a real motivation behind the design, which was taking something that obviously was working well and just making it, a little more special.
Up in the ante, as they say.
Yeah, well, it's funny, right? I think, battery technology all in all it's a pretty simple concept. Where it gets interesting is the energy management. And that's where, Gary and team have really differentiated themselves on the power electronics side to create something that's both very analog and kind of just makes sense and simple, but then also using development and AI to make it smarter. I think there's a lot of technology in the space right now that kind of works in this like UFO going to Mars sphere, right? They're really trying to push what's possible, and we need that. But at the same time, that creates truck rolls and problems for installers. Either the install wasn't built the way it needed to be for that function to work, or the function is not maybe a little half baked. So with our sense, we've tried to go back to what we know works and just make it smarter. But yeah, I mean, I think, Aaron, this product, you mentioned something that we've been at it for a while. Even though the product's really only been on the shelves and in the hands of people for maybe the last year, we have been developing this since late 2018, early 2019. So there has been a lot of playing in the sandbox, a lot of really just fun exploration on the tech side. And I've been an installer, I've been a dealer, I've been an integrator, I've worked on the software side. And my experience is that the industry is often guinea pigs for the technology. So we really did our best to do our due diligence on the product before we brought it to market, rather than use the market as our test subjects.
Yeah, and you can really see that in the way that the product is designed. There's just a very, very simple architecture. Why don't you go ahead and describe that a bit for the folks that are listening?
Right, absolutely. So the Franklin whole home system is really, it's pretty simple. It's 2 SKUs outside of a few accessories that make it more functional in different scenarios. So, we have our A power, which is our battery, and our A gate, which is our controller. The A gate actually replaces the service entrance as the main control for the home. So whereas a customer might have a main panel, and that's kind of the brain for the home right now, the A gate really is a smart controller, whether it's solar or generator in the future when we see more bidirectional car charging options, right? More V to H, maybe we'll find the phrase V to B, which I look forward to coining hopefully sooner than later. It's very much overbuilt on the hardware, the A gate. So it's unique in the sense that people can really start the future electrification of their home. I think it's really uniquely designed for people that are either already have electric cars or are looking to add electric cars, but maybe their service panel just doesn't have the capacity for it. And so between these 2 products, the battery, which is an LFP battery, proprietary inverter inside, and then our control box, it's really actually a very simple system.
And on top of like simple component list, you said simple installation. Have you, when you've worked with a lot of installers in the field, getting this product out there, how many installers have you talked to that were kind of not necessarily tired of storage systems, but they have run into a ton of issues, whether that was electronics or updates? I guess what has Franklin done, or what stories have you seen that are able to kind of bring some of those customers back into the fold?
Man, we are a bunch of PTSD warriors in the like the scars can be seen. Yeah. Man, having done this for 15 years, I think more than anything, I carry a deep sympathy and appreciation for our installers. This is an industry that has a tendency to say no a lot. And it's always coupled with an I'm sorry, be patient, we'll get there. We've really focused on the service element at Franklin, and I think that is felt and it's very palpable with our installers, our devotion to their success.
Great info, Justin. What are some, I guess, more specific examples when dealing with installers, easing those pain points that the Franklin product answers?
That's a great question, Jason. I think largely, the fact that the Franklin does come pre-built and prefabricated with the CTs, with the ATSs, and a lot of the external hardware that normally goes on a job, because that's already prefabbed. They can spend more time focusing on the quality of the installation than trying to actually put the battery together. The availability of the product has been a big feature for people. They are, readily available across America, and BayWa has been doing a great job of getting those on the shelves. So I think that's a big differentiator as well. And installers are happy to be using LFP and a high capacity battery.
Oh, I was just going to ask if you'd be able to talk about any differentiators in scaling as well. Like, I mean, it's the range that you guys have. Maybe touch on that just a little bit more.
Yeah, Jason, that's huge. I'm so glad you brought that up. That was actually really what drew me to Franklin. With any new product, scaling and being able to go into mass production is probably where you're going to feel the most pain. And we've been I think they've made some really intelligent decisions on their cell purchasing at Franklin. So they are doing a prismatic EV grade cell. And these are non-cylindrical. So it's the same cell that is going into most LFP cars. So, which means they're being made on a mass scale, much more than most NMC cells, which are actually kind of difficult to source. They're not very renewable. So from a scaling side, not only is LFP more renewable and recyclable, but it's being made en masse for cars. And so with the cell that we chose and that we've kind of hitched our wagon to, so to speak, it's the same prismatic cells you're seeing in the new Tesla Model 3s. They're LFP. It's the same thing you're seeing in the Chevys and the Ford Lightnings. So we don't really have to worry about cycle warranties. It's extremely resilient. It's used to being discharged 10%, 20%, 5 times a day, right? So that's a big differentiator in our product.
Yeah, and that scaling that you're describing is definitely going to help make sure that the price remains something that, can be improved upon over time, I would imagine, right? There's going to be more production facilities, more adoption of those particular cells. And so you all will hopefully be the benefactors of some of those economies of scale as well, right?
I mean, I remember buying Mitsubishi 165s for $4.99 a watt.
Yeah.
I mean, right? I mean, there's no question, because we've chosen the product and the path that we're taking, that scaling and reduce of the product is a huge priority, right? There's a revolution happening in terms of, customers putting grids on their own houses and with batteries. And it's going to require a very massive lift. We're going to all have to do it together.
Right. And one of the things about the Franklin's design is that it's actually capable of providing a home with that true microgrid. The A gate can attach to how many A powers was it?
It's even weird for me to say sometimes, but 15 A powers per A gate. You can stack 15 batteries per A gate, but then also you can stack the batteries all the way up to 160 amps or 38.4 continuous output per A gate.
Wow.
So it's essentially small commercial, but for 240 volt.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just incredible. Yeah, and I know that you have a little a fun offering out on the table. I don't know if you want to repeat it here, but might as well plug it, right?
I mean, put this out to the masses. Why not? I'm gonna get all sorts of claims, and like we're gonna see cardboard Franklin installs. Like,
hey, you got to be first, though.
So yeah, Aaron, I have been telling our partners that the first person to sell a 15 battery system gets to stay at our house in Kauai for a week.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's on there, and we've had some close calls. I know, so I think 11's the record so far.
That's really cool, and it's just so exciting that there's that option, right, to scale up to that size to basically, hit the max of what your average 200 amp panel can take, right?
Right. It's
for hours.
It's pretty exciting when you think about what we can provide to the grid and stability of future homes. The utilities aren't going to keep up. It's not going to happen. I think, if you haven't by now, you will be part of like a transformer blowing and those neutralizers stop working and all of a sudden your appliances are smoking, right? These are the kind of things that we can do to prevent all those appliances. Like, this infrastructure is set up not only to provide backup and provide, money saving programs and et cetera. It's actually a safety mechanism for your home. People don't realize that. And the power electronics in the A gate are sophisticated enough to detect bad voltage from the grid, right? And act upon it as such.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. I actually am out in California, where we just recently had storms a little before we were recording this. And as a part of that, last night, for the first time, I actually experienced a true brownout where, the voltage coming to our house was just insufficient to actually operate things normally. And so we had lights half lit all over the house. It was pretty interesting to see.
Yeah. And that could be really, so, I spent a lot of my time before getting into solar as a musician, and I'll never forget, I had everything hooked up into a surge protector. And when that voltage slipped, the Neve console and all the preamps and everything that's built in, the surge protector caught that surge, but the surge protector blew up. It lit on fire. So,
oh my God.
It's like, what is happening? I remember the Southern California Edison inspector that came that day with the fire department said, these things are really old. It was bound to happen.
Wow.
With the need for the homeowner no longer needing to compromise on their power system, what's Franklin doing to kind of offer the same thing to our installers and businesses, our installation businesses?
This is a really overbuilt product. Whether it's avoiding main panel upgrades to being able to give your customer a complete control of what their choices are, right? Not every customer has the budget for a whole home battery backup. You're going to have people that are going to have some backed up and non-backed up. That's an option with Franklin. We have smart circuits equipped in the battery. That's an optional part. And that can become what I like to refer to as a non-critical load. So there's, the ability to move the new electric car that might come in the future. Customers getting in a year. That meter spot can hold up the project 4 to 6 months to get that electrical upgrade. So across the board, what we've really tried to do is just create a paint by numbers solution picture for installers, whether it's having accessories that'll allow the system to operate off grid with PV load side support, even though they have too much solar. For the budget minded customer, I really believe we've stepped everything up very incrementally, from the most basic of systems to really advanced complex systems, maybe using multiple span panels. We've made it really easy to design this and meet customers' needs for what they're asking for. Because when they tell you they want something, is not a good time to turn to them and tell them what they get.
And yeah, you just mentioned oversized arrays, and not to be too product specific, but I do believe you guys have an optional part that can help with oversized arrays or long array runs as well.
It's really cool. So I'm glad you brought this up. This is like I said, we're kids playing in the sandbox here too. We're innovating and we take it very seriously. But our team back at HQ developed a thing called the AP box, and that's essentially an external relay CT combiner of sorts. If you have a solar edge, say a customer has a pre-existing solar edge system, and then they add Enphase in 2022, and then they're trying to bring these two things in. If they're able to just combine that into the battery, great, right? It'll work right into the A gate. But maybe those panels are 400 feet away from the house, or maybe you've got 9 kilowatt of solar and you've only got one battery that runs at 5 kilowatt. We need to be able to shut off 4 kilowatt and relay that system down so that you can still have PV support when the grid is down, as well as the battery, right? It's essentially doubles your output, your continuous output. So the AP box does a number of things, but what it will do is make designing these systems textbook. So it doesn't matter, 8 kilowatt, 12 kilowatt, one battery, two batteries. It's gonna act as sort of the gatekeeper to bad design. Right?
So I heard you hint there, Justin, something that really excites me about the FranklinWH solution. Let's talk a little bit more about main panel upgrade avoidance and how that works. What goes into it? What accessories are required? What's going on? Because that's a really cool feature that I think everyone needs to know about.
Right. I mean, well, and if you're an installer, the main panel upgrades are typically the bane of your existence, right? It's not a soft pain point. So, one of the advantages for us, right, is we have the additional bus rating of 280 amps. And the A gate allows up to 160 amps of generation input, right? So PV, batteries, that can be controlled and selectively routed upstream via our PCS controls. So whole home backup of a 200 panel that's already maxed out with 40 amp of PV breaker can now be routed to the load side of the A gate. And then additional load side generation sources like PV or battery can be added behind the utility meter without actually upgrading service or the service panel by using these features.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We've had some wonderful mentors, Aaron, and people in the industry that have really taken to Franklin, like Bill Brooks, and his, having somebody who literally wrote the NEC code advising you is really allowed us to do some pretty cool things.
Yeah, and of course, I rumor has it that when he did his install, he couldn't do it just the normal way, right? He had to.
He installed them in direct sunlight in Vacaville at like a 160-foot run on a 2004 SMA. But it worked. And Bill is a big fan of Franklin, so much so that his son actually came to work with us in Northern California. He's one of the best technicians we have in the field. It's incredible.
Oh, wow. Getting intergenerational fandom here from some of the solar greats. That's pretty cool. And, just to be fair, like, it just sounds like Bill Brooks is taking the same attitude as Gary Lamb took to his Powerwall, just putting it to the test, trying to figure out what the limits are. So that's not surprising at all.
And we got that a lot from our development partners, right? Like when we gave them the battery, one guy looked at me and goes, I'm going to try to break this, right? I was like, okay, go for it. And what they found, he said, you know what? We actually surged higher than 10 at times.
Wow.
So there might be some secret little like goose eggs that, you guys can go, Easter eggs you guys can go hunting for in the near future. We've built the hardware so that it's not really hardware improvements to change the product. It's going to come from the software side.
Yeah. One of the things that, it's both hardware and software that play a role in it. But one of the other things that really caught my eye was the Franklin's ability to overcome black starting. What goes into that? And
well, you know what it is, Aaron? It's called under promising and over delivering. It's not a hard thing, right? Like, what a concept. Most people are buying how could I say this? Like they're purchasing a nameplate rating, but they're actually only getting access to X amount of power, right? Typically it's around 85 to 90% of whatever they were sold. So they're cycling that through. And then when they do allow them is much more than 90%, then the battery is just non-functional once it's drained, right? Because what a lot of people don't understand is inverters require grid power to run. If you don't have grid power present, the inverter is going to require some power source just to turn on, right? Yep. So it's not the other way around. And I think there's a lot of confusion in the market. Like guys think, oh, the solar system turns on my battery. No, battery turns on their solar system. So we actually give a 15 kilowatt hour battery to the customer, but we're selling them a 13.6. So the customer gets 100% depth of discharge on that 13.6, and that, roughly 1.4, 1.39 kilowatt hour of reserve power is used to start the solar system in a multi-day outage. You can actually use that bank for, I think, up to like 3 days of no grid connection or ability to power the battery. So think if your solar system, you drain your battery, your solar charges it back up, and then you forget to turn off your AC on your smart controls. And then next thing you know, they drain it again a second time for whatever reason you forgot. It's still going to do it again the next day. It's still going to work. So this is unique. And I know this costs installers a lot of money doing truck rolls to go charge these batteries.
Yeah, it's extremely difficult to overcome a battery that's been drained past the point of no return, right? You can literally brick it and have to deal with shipping it back to the manufacturer or some other really difficult process.
Yeah. Or walking around with a generator, like a 12-foot battery, trying to sit there and wait for 3 hours so it gets just enough charge that you can fire it back up and connect it to the grid. It's, that's one of the cool things. Franklin, I think we have like a year's shelf life. So like once we ship it, it can sit there for a year and not be used, and still is going to have about, 10, 15% of the battery.
Yeah. And Justin, after talking about, some of the different accessories you guys have, some of these great features, could you expand a little bit more on the smart circuit integration into the A-gate?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is one of our coolest features, and it's very unique to Franklin. We often get compared to different products, right? So we're like high capacity, kind of like Powerwall. You've got the really resilient LFP chemistry and islanding ability similar to Enphase. But then we also have this unique kind of secret sauce, which is our smart circuits. And that's kind of like a span panel for dummies. Is the easiest way I can explain it. I'm a big fan of span. I can't wait to put one on my new house. But I'm also like, if I gave that to my grandma, she wouldn't be able to turn the lights back on. So, I'm not trying to put grandma in a Ferrari and send her down the street. We get her a golf cart with fuzzy steering wheel. So our smart circuits are essentially very easy controls where you can control your appliances from your app. I have a lady off grid in Hawaii who actually uses it to turn the hot water off on her teenagers.
That's awesome. Not enough.
But yeah, like maybe you want to run your AC, but you don't know if you have enough power. The sun's not shining, so you don't have that PV load side support, and you only have one battery. You really need to do laundry. If you've got 2 batteries, you really need to do laundry. You got to kind of pick and choose. You can try it. If it doesn't work, it's going to shed that circuit, and that the rest of the home is going to continue to function. This is, again, that going back to reduced compromise. The smart circuits are there to help customers manage their energy better. And we don't need to give them 40 circuits. They just need the big ones that typically drain their battery. There are essentially 3 smart circuits in the A-gate. You have a 240 volt 80 amp, which is capable of housing 2 level 2 chargers. And then you also have a 120 volt 50 amp smart circuit that can be combined to a 240. That way, like a pool pump or an AC, you could split those onto that 50 amp circuit. Or like I said, you could combine them and build a little, non-critical load that the customer can turn off several different appliances if they don't have load side support or don't want to drain their battery.
Very cool.
And we talked a lot about, again, the many features, but what are some objections that you've gotten potentially from the field for this product?
So thanks for bringing that up, Jason. Nothing's perfect. I like to think that Franklin has been designed as close to perfection as it can be, but we do take a lot of developmental notes from our partners, and we're listening every day to develop. And one of the things that we've noticed from people is that they do report the battery is very heavy. It's 400 pounds. This is not something you build on site like an Enphase battery or Generac, where you can just kind of put everything in. It's coming prefabricated. So while it is difficult to move, it's a very low level of education type of thing. You don't need to send your top electrician to try to move the battery up against the wall, right? So the advantage of it is because all that work's already been done, I think Vincent was the one who said it, Vincent Ambrose, our CCO, he goes, it's only heavy once. So yeah, you got, Escalar lifts. There's different ways to maneuver it. Hand crank lifts. Some guys are using a hand dolly when they're just wall mounting it, kind of lift it up and then drop it in over the rack. We provide all the tools, including Cat 5 cable, to make it as easy as possible. But remember, you don't have to build it on site. Sacrificing time, of construction versus ease of labor is it's neither here nor there. I think it's a wash. The people, they complain about it a few times and they're never going to stop complaining about it because nobody wants to lift 400 pounds. So we'll do what we can to make it more modular. But right now the battery is waterproof. So in Florida, when the battery was sitting in 28 inches of standing water for 18 hours, it actually worked a couple of days later.
Wow.
When he turned it back on.
Not recommended for what's the old saying? Do not
try this at home.
Yeah.
Please. Yeah. I mean, listen, if you live in a hurricane area, you want to know that whatever battery you're putting in your home is waterproof.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Quality of construction is key. So again, we're trying to eliminate as much user error, installer error as possible on behalf of both the customer and the installer.
Yeah. And you guys have done a lot of work to make sure that the installer training program is robust in a way that I think is pretty interesting and unique in some areas, right? So let's talk about if someone listening is sold, they want to start offering Franklin to their customers. How are they going to be able to get started? How do they become a certified Franklin installer? What are the steps? What are the next steps?
The certification process is really simple. Go to FranklinWH.com, apply, or go to FranklinWH.com and click the Contact Us button. There you can fill out a form to be a certified installer. It takes about 3 to 4 minutes, after which within a couple of days, we will send you portal access to your fleet view and the training on the technical side. So anybody that's commissioning a Franklin system needs to be technically certified. It's a 9-module training, takes about 3 hours. But once they get certified, they're eligible to participate in our super cool promotion.
Yeah. So what's up with that?
Super cool promotions are awesome, right? It's a buy 2, get 1 A power free. So if you install a 2 A power system as an installer, we'll actually provide a credit to your distributor for your next battery at no cost.
Very exciting.
It does have to be commissioned, and it's for your first system, right? Just like the Hawaii trip, it's got to be your first one. But yeah, once that's completed, we've just noticed installers really love it. And it gives them an opportunity to either A, provide more value to a customer, run a sweepstakes, use it for marketing, use it for testing and training. It's been a really cool promotion. We did it last year, and we're going to run it again through June 31st or 30th, whatever day that month ends.
Look like you're itching to jump in with a question there.
Oh, my brain kind of went to, Justin had told a story about kind of an off-grid solution where they couldn't actually get power out to the site, and kind of building, it was a containerized, had an A power A gate in there with solar on the roof. And my brain immediately jumped to this promo and being like, you can build your own off-grid portable powerhouse for your crew. That was kind of where my brain went when he mentioned that promo. That's all.
A little off-grid recording studio for you, Jason, right?
I'd take it. Yeah.
Container in the backyard line it up. No, I mean, that is fun. I'm so glad you brought up that system. That is my favorite system that we have in our entire fleet. It's a cool story, right? They couldn't get power to the property of this new development. And the guy was building a, $4 million, 6,300 square foot home. So the builders actually purchased 2 A powers, put solar panels on top of a container, ran it completely off grid, ran buzz saws, table saws, drills, rebar bender, compressor, and actually built a 6,300 square foot luxury home off grid completely.
Wow. That's incredible.
So it was great for us, right? That's a lot of data and sine waves and different things that we were able to get into our software, and really opened the glass ceiling as far as development for us and being able to accommodate things. I know that the R&D guys love to put like power tools on things that you can run on the battery because they're like, we can actually do this now. So it didn't work at first. It took some time in development, but yeah.
Justin, we've mentioned a lot of perks, benefits of the product, as it is currently. But what's on the roadmap for Franklin Whole Home?
The industry is changing a lot for storage. Demand response is becoming part of the conversation more and more every day. Virtual power plants and different programs from utilities where you can sell back the power or provide, essentially infrastructure support to the grid during high demand periods. There's a lot of value in that. At Franklin, we do not compete in the VPP space against our installers, right? So there's a lot of batteries out there that are out trying to get enrolled in those programs themselves. We are simply providing the hardware. And we really believe that I see installers, especially the high volume installers, becoming aggregators over the next couple of years, right? And managing these assets. The VPP has potential for these homeowners to maybe they get some rebates in year one, but in year 9, a new program comes out where by discharging their battery to the grid, they can get another benefit, right? We're not competing for that capital against our partners. Rather, we're supporting it with hardware and saying, go do this, right? This is your empire to build, not ours. So I think as the market matures and this becomes much more relevant on the decision making for what products installers use, I think we're positioned really nicely.
That's great, Justin. And I just wanted to say thanks for all the information on Franklin Whole Home, all the nitty gritty details, great stories that you threw in there as well. We really look forward to having you back on the show in the future and seeing what you guys do in the industry.
Thank you. Anytime. This was fun.
I definitely learned some new things about the FranklinWH system. Jason, was there anything that stuck with you?
I mean, right off the bat, you said we wanted to know what that whole home or the WH stood for. And I think Justin nailed it. Whole home, it means literally managing your whole home's power system. And I really like the continued concept around no compromise. It's easy for the homeowner to understand. It's very versatile as far as what it will match up with, whether it's inverters or generators. And on top of that, it's also very easy to add to a line card, if for your sales team, just because it is simplified, even though while simplified in parts, it's very robust in what it can do.
Yeah. Folks don't have to feel like they're having a really complicated conversation with homeowners saying like, well, the battery can't quite do that. As long as the battery is sized correctly, the product is designed to be super robust and just make it so that folks don't need to compromise. That's awesome. So for everyone that's ready to learn more about FranklinWH, or maybe even ask FranklinWH some of your own questions, try to come on and stump them, we're having a webinar that's open for all installers in the United States. You can join us on April 13th and check out the show notes to find out more.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks to Justin for joining the show, all the great information on Franklin and their storage product. And just let you guys know, we'll keep track of Franklin's progress as well as other storage solutions in the industry.
Yeah, and to that end, we're actually going to be releasing an updated version of our energy storage comparison chart. Our energy storage comparison chart is a really easy to use resource that compares the different energy storage products that are on BayWa's line card. And so we're excited to be bringing a new version of that to the market that includes manufacturing partners like Duracell, like Franklin, that we've only brought on more recently, but that we're very excited about. So just stay tuned for that.
Great. And with that, thanks for listening, and we'll see everybody next time.
Adios.